memory affected. So we discussed those things. It was concluded that we should return the following day, which was the Tuesday, the 14th. So
So
we
can you
had
tell
this
us?
issue of
Please proceed.
yes, you want me to say something?
No, I thought you had concluded, so I was going to ask what happened after you left Bakau police station. Where did you go next?
Now, okay, what it was, there was this issue of where would the girl go, because the girl came to those areas with her teachers, so they were not sure whether she had relatives in the area, and the principal said she could not take the girl home, but the female sports teacher said she could not take her home because where she was being hosted, she had only she could where she was going to be hosted, she could get space for only herself. And so I suggested I take the girl and the sport teacher to our compound at Back Hotel. So they accepted. So I went home with the female sports teacher and the girl, and they spent that night at my place at Back Hotel. But the interesting thing is, the moment we arrived on our premise, my mother, who had inherited, I mean, like aspects of traditional midwifery from my grandmother, observed that the girl was in pain because traditionally my mother would take newly married girls to their house, and while they were being introduced into marriage, the physical aspects of marriage, she would be continuing to take them there and assisting them physically in terms of their bodily needs and so on and so on. So she was experienced enough in mind to understand the girl was in pain. So she asked whether she could help her. At that time, I was still with the officials from the Ministry of Education because we took them to Bakote in that same vehicle. So they agreed, and then I proceeded to Brikama with the same officials and left the girl at my place until the next day when we returned to Bakau police station.
So of course, your mother haven't had experience in relation to people who were married for the first time. That's a different scenario from an allegation concerning rape. Of course, that's totally different.
Exactly, yeah. That was. I think that what I'm trying to insinuate that is what happens whether people are raped or whether they are newly married. If, for example, in the Gambia, the fact of the matter is we celebrate virginity. So when girls are newly married, they wanted to identify that, and obviously when there is still an element or some aspect of physical injury that needs to be treated. That's what I'm insinuating here. I'm just trying to be careful with the language.
Indeed, I can tell. And your point is that she was visibly in pain. One could tell from just observing her. We have about 15 minutes left for this session. So you told us that you left the girl as well as her teachers at your house, and you went somewhere else. Where did you go?
I went with the officials to Brikama. I went with them to Brikama because that was it was our mission to Brikama was in connection with something else. It was we were all they were all teachers. So and I was a teacher as well. So it was about the time that they were giving out the 1x6. And they wanted us, and the team that was given 1x6 in region 1 and so on had already left Banjul. and they were supposed to be in Brikama. So that was the reason I proceeded to Brikama with the officials from the Ministry of Education. We went there to get our 1/6 loan from the government.
So I'd like to proceed to the next day. You were told by the Bakau police station, the station officer, Mr. Fofana, that you should return to the police station the next day. Can you tell us what happened?
Yes, the next day we returned. When we returned, we found him actually at the auto. And the other, I went with the teacher and the female teacher and the girl, and the headmaster and the other teacher came to the station, and we met there, and then we went to Mr. Fofana's office, and Mr. Fofana called the person who was assigned to prepare the case file, and then the person had already prepared the case file by the time we arrived, so he brought the case file to Fofana, and he received it there, and we realized that a case file had been prepared. Case. It was then that something very shocking happened. Mr. S.O. Fofana then, after having received the case file, took the phone, and made a call. It was those phones in the past, we had those phones, they were not digital, so when you're dialing it, you turn it round, the numbers round. And it was when you are very close to somebody using them, you could hear what they were saying. I was the closest sitting to Mr. Fofana because I was at the edge of his table. He made the call, and someone received the call, a male. When he spoke to the person and told the person that the case file had been prepared and was ready, the person told him categorically and very clearly to me to take it easy with this case.
You've already told us that you were sitting very close to Mr. Fofana, and so that's why you could hear what was being said on the other side of the line. Do you know who he was talking to?
I don't know who he was talking to because he did not mention a name. But apparently and obviously to me, he was speaking to someone up the ranks, someone higher up the ranks compared to him, because while they were speaking, he used the word sir, the title sir. He said, yes, sir. So from that room that he was speaking to someone of a higher rank than him.
So from what you've told us, Mr. Juve, Mr. Fofana called someone much more senior than him in terms of ranks and informed that person that the case file concerning Miss Mane had been prepared and it was ready. And from what you've said, that person responded, quote, take it easy on the case. Is that correct?
Exactly, that's correct.
You told us that that was a shocking experience for you. Can you tell us why?
My interpretation of the case, I mean, like I am not someone who is normally pessimistic. I started to be pessimistic about the case from that point because I don't know why, but from that moment I started to suspect cover-up, and I was really shocked.
I would still like to focus on the events in the office itself, Mr. Fofana's office. After he hung up the phone, was there any discussion about the conversation that he had just had on the telephone?
After he rang up, the first thing I observed about in terms of his body language was confusion, like frustration, like he has come against a wall. That was what I could read from his body language.
Did you or
And
anyone say anything to him about what you had just heard from the caller on the other line, on the other side of the phone?
no, no, I am not even sure because I have never discussed it with the other parties in the office. Then I'm not even sure whether they have had it because I am sure no one has ever discussed it with them because I did not. So I don't know about them because the interesting thing is from that point onwards, as the leader of Gamsu, I became very obsessed about having a resolution to these issues than than spread sharing any information with anybody which might jeopardize that attainment because it was shocking to me and I believe it would have been shocking to other people, other parties, if I had told them about them, if I had told them about it. So I kept it to myself and still believe that we could find solutions to these issues.
So just to make sure I understand, having heard a senior officer, presumably a senior authority figure, tell Station Officer Fofana at Bakau Police Station to take it easy on Miss Mane's case file, your decision was not to discuss it because you didn't want to aggravate the situation. Is that a fair?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's a correct assessment of my position. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you very much. What about the content of the case file? Did you at any point, were you informed of the content of the case file, or were you allowed to see the case file?
No, we were not allowed to see the case file, but we saw the case file physically, the physical file, and yes, and we left it with Mr. S.O. Fofana.
And as far as you are aware, based on your presence the day before as well as that second day at the police station, do you know if a statement was taken from Miss Mane at all?
At the police station, yes, yes. Ms. Mane and the teacher, they all gave statements at the police station.
You mentioned that following the conversation that S.O. Fofana had, you sense a change in the attitude of the police regarding the case. Can you tell us more about that?
From that point, the next most important was the ID parade, identification parade. Now this was on the 14th of March. Now schools were going to close that Friday. Schools were closing that Friday because it was early the next week and schools were going out on vacation. So if, for example, an ID parade is not held between that Tuesday and Monday, then it means it would not be held again until people come back from the Eid, which was going to be on the 20th then. So it became very important to us, and I started to feel the pressure in regard of the very urgent need for an identification parade. But even after we pressed that, but they could not provide for an identification parade. They could not provide for an identification parade within that week, which means also that up to Monday, which means also that the victim and her teachers had to go back to the provinces and come back after Eid.
Did they explain why they couldn't conduct an identification parade prior to the holiday period?
No, they did not. That's what I realized about the case at that point. They generally had started dragging their feet in connection with the case. Everything, they started dragging their feet, and you absolutely had to put pressure on them. And in terms of the pressure, there was just, I mean, like, it was just about, there wasn't much that we could do at that point in time. So we just kept talking to them. So in fact, what I did was, after that, they went away. When we dispersed at Bakau police station, the understanding was there was not going to be an ID parade until after Eid, and we all dispersed. But I had to go back to the Ministry of Education the next day to kind of give them a situation report, because when we went back to the police station the following day, there was none of them there. So I went to Banjul again the following day to give them a report on this.
So from what you've said, you've kept the Ministry of Education abreast of the issues as events were unfolding. Can you tell us who you met at the Ministry of Education the second time around?
I would always meet mostly the Deputy Director of Education, admin. He was admin, and the Chief Education at the time. Yes, Dr. Ja and Mr. Hassan Ju.
And what was the reaction of the officials at the Ministry of Education to your update?
They didn't like, of course, they didn't like what was happening. They did not like what was happening. I can remember them praising us, the student leadership, for, maintaining a system of continuous follow-up on the case like that on a daily basis. But from their end, they were not doing anything. They were not doing anything. They were just, I was going there, giving them information, and even when there was, an ID parade, I informed them of the time of the ID parade, and they sent one person to attend the ID parade.
So thank you for the information that you've provided regarding Miss Mane. She was, of course, very young at the time. It was her first time in the Greater Banjul area, so it's very helpful.
She was very young. I think she must have been 12, 13 at the time.
Indeed. So it's very helpful to have other people provide information from their perspectives. But I'd like to end that issue by asking one last question, which is concerning the identification parade itself. Can you tell us what happened when it was finally held?
Yes, the identification parade happened after Eid. The girl came down. I think that was, yes, almost a Monday after the Monday after the Eid, and Eid was around the 20th, which was around about, I think it was on a Wednesday, yes. So the following week, early the following week, they called us for the ID parade, and we went to the ID parade. I went there, and then the Ministry of Education, they sent one of their officials to attend as well, and the girl was there with one of our parents and a witness. So the parade was put in effect, and the girl went around and could not identify the person who allegedly raped her. But after that, we were all asked to make statements because the press was there as well. And my reaction was that an identification parade is not the last item in the police investigation toolbox. I told them this. I said, the police still continue the investigation through other means, because this should not be end of story.
Just to make sure I understood something you said, Mr. Juve, the press was present during the incident where the identification parade was being conducted at the Bakau police station. Is that correct?
No, it was at police headquarters in Banjul.
At police headquarters, but
Yes,
the press were
yes.
present during that time.
Yes, it public. Yes, it was a public. It was a public thing. It was. We were not kept away.
Thank you for that clarification. I will leave it at that because we need to take the lunch break. When we come back, we will focus more on the meetings that you had with the authorities. You've already told us that it was your vice president, Alaji Estabo, who was involved in the issues concerning Mr. Ibrahim Abari. So we won't cover that, but we'll just move on to the meetings.
Yeah, excuse me, I think I attended only one meeting in regard of that at Gambia College, yes.
We'll talk about that briefly and then focus on the other meetings you had with the authorities. Thank you very much for answering my question. Mr. Chairman, I hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emma Council, and thank you, Mr. Juve. We will take a lunch break and resume at 3 o'clock sharp. Meeting is adjourned.